Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to Akaal Stories.
Today you'll be joining me, Dipjit Kaur,
And me, Amanpreet Kaur.
and also our two guests.
Me, Gurnoor Kaur. And me, Kamandeep Kaur.
So first of all, let's start off with the Gur Mantra, the Mool Mantra, and the Sikh general knowledge.
Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru. Ek onkar Satnam, Karta Purkh, Nirpau, Nirvair, Akaal Murth, Ajuni Sapang, Gur Prasad.
That's Guru Adi now.
पहली पातशाही श्री गुरु नानक देव जी, दूजी पातशाही श्री गुरु अंगद देव जी, तीजी पातशाही श्री गुरु अमरदास जी, चौथी पातशाही श्री गुरु रामदास जी, पंचवी पातशाही श्री गुरु अर्जन देव जी, छठवीं पातशाही श्री गुरु हरगोबिंद साहिब जी, सातवीं पातशाही श्री गुरु हरराय जी, आठवीं पातशाही श्री गुरु हरकृष्ण जी, नौवीं पातशाही श्री गुरु तेग बहादुर जी, 10वीं पातशाही श्री गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी, 10वां पातशाही दी जोत धन धन श्री गुरु ग्रंथ साहिब जी।
पंज प्यारियां दे ना
भाई दया सिंह जी, भाई धर्म सिंह जी, भाई हिम्मत सिंह जी, भाई मोहकम सिंह जी, भाई साहिब सिंह जी। चार साहिबजादे आदे ना बाबा अजीत सिंह जी, बाबा जुझार सिंह जी, बाबा जोरावर सिंह जी, बाबा फतेह सिंह जी। पांच ककार केस, कंगा, करा, किरपैन, किशहरा।
3 golden rules.
नाम जपो, किरत करो, वन के शको।
Naam Japo means
Doing hard,
Kit Guru means
honest hard work,
Vand Kishoko means
sharing.
well done everybody. So today we're going to be learning about our 9th Guru.
Shri Guru Teg Bahadur Ji.
So before we move on to today's topic, Gunu and Kamandeep Kaur, well they have some stories to tell us a bit later on. So till then,
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
so as I told you, we're going to be learning about our 9th Guru. So first of all, let's start off with the basic facts.
He was born in 1621 in Kartarpur.
His father was Shri Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji.
His mother was Mata Nanki Ji,
His childhood name was Tyagmal.
and his wife's name was Mata Gujri Ji, and they got married in Kartarpur.
And his Jyoti Jyot was in 1675 in November in Delhi. So now we already know a little bit about them. Now let's get to know more. So first of all, the education.
So he had 2 teachers in total, Bhai Gurdas Ji and Baba Buddha Ji. When he was young, he learned from Bhai Gurdas Ji, and he taught him how to use different sorts of weapons. So how to use a bow and arrow with great accuracy from afar, and how to use the sword, and how to defend himself at the same time as attacking other people. So once he had learnt from Bhai Gurdas Ji, he went to live with Baba Buddha Ji, and Baba Buddha Ji taught him very important stuff. So for example, he taught him the 3 golden rules, which we told you at the beginning, so you should know them and know the meaning as well. And he also taught him, look, that person is doing Naam Japo, they are getting blessings from Vaheguru. And look, this person is doing Vand Ke Shakal. And he also taught him how you can do that as well in your own day-to-day life.
So that's a little bit about the education. Now I'm going to tell you about the personality, because everybody has a different personality. So it was Guru Teg Bahadur Ji's. Well, now you're going to find out. So Guruji's personality, well, he was very calm and quiet, but on the other side, he was brave and strong as well, and very courageous, and was very skillful at using the sword. And when he got the news of his teachers going to Vaheguru, he's very sad and very emotional. So he had a lot of feelings, didn't he?
Yeah.
So that's how he was. And so today we have many stories for you. And so the first one is going to be told by Amanpreet. So let's hand it all over to her to tell us about it.
So as Dibjit told us that when his two teachers passed away and went to Vaheguru, he was quite shy and timid. And nobody knew about his special gift, about his bravery and how well he used the dig. And this is a story about how his father found out how well he used the dig. And so once a group of Mughals attacked a village near Fagwara. When Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji received this news, him and his Sikhs, as well as Tyagmal Ji, they went to the village. They attacked the Mughals. And whilst attacking the Mughals and defending the village, Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji saw how well his own son used the dig. He is quite astonished by his skill. He didn't know his son could defend and attack the Mughals at the same time. Because he was shy and timid, he didn't tell his other people about his strengths and weaknesses. And the Mughals' attack was unsuccessful. And when they returned home, Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji said to his son that, I want to speak to you tonight. Tyagmal Ji went to see his father and said, Father, what is it that you wanted to tell me? Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji said that, I saw how well you used the dig today. From now on, you will be not known as Tyagmal Ji, you will be known as Teg Bahadur Ji. And this name was given to him because of Teg, how well he used the sword, the Teg, and Bahadur because he was very brave, because he was only 12 or 13 years old when he actually fought against those Mughals and defended himself at the same time. So he was very brave to actually go and fight, because if I'm 12 and 13, I would be very scared to fight somebody, and that's why the name Teg Bahadur was given to him.
So it just shows how strong he was, how brave he was, and how well he used the sword. And so now we're going to be telling you a story about the Harmandir Sahib. So I'll start it off and then Amanpreet will end it off for us. So Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji had given the responsibility of the Harmandir Sahib to the Sikhs. And then when Guru Teg Bahadur Ji became Guru, he also had the responsibility. And now at this time, Guru Teg Bahadur Ji was not in Amritsar, so he was out of town. And so what happened, the Sikhs had all the responsibility. And it was going on well, but after a few days, a person called Harji, who was Prithi Chand's grandson, and because of their generation, all had done bad deeds in their lives. Well, he took over the Harmandir Sahib. And he said, no longer you will read the Gurbani from the Pothi Sahib, but you will read the hymns and the poems that I have written. So this went on for a long time. And the true Sikhs were absolutely hating this. They said, how can someone else take over the Harmandir Sahib and say that you can only read my poems? We want to read the Gurbani out of the Pothi Sahib. And so what happened? The true Sikhs went to Guru Teg Bahadur Ji and told him what had happened in the Harmandir Sahib. And so they brought Guruji back to the Harmandir Sahib, and lots of people started gathering round Guruji, asking him, what are you going to do? How is this going to happen? But Guruji, without saying anything, went to the Harmandir Sahib and tried to open the doors. But they wouldn't open. And so they tried a few times but still wouldn't open. And then Guruji had understood that Harji had already locked all the doors from inside, so no one could get in, but he could get out. So that's what happened. And so
after a while of trying to open the doors, Guru Teg Bahadur Ji went to sit at a thada.
Yes, he did, at a thada. And I've told you what a thada is, haven't I? In another show? Well, I'll just tell you again, because you might have forgotten. So a thada is basically a seating place around a tree. And it's normally made out of concrete or bricks. So Amanpreet, do you know what happened next?
Yes. Guru Teg Bahadur Ji sat at the thada and began to preach about Sikhism, the 3 golden rules and the teachings that other gurus have given us. And the Sikhs were listening to him very calmly and taking in whatever Guru Teg Bahadur Ji had to say. Because it was very rare that you got to see Guru Teg Bahadur Ji, because he went on many udasiyan. And so what happened was that some of the Sikhs were thinking to themselves that Hasn't the Guru come here to stop what bad deeds Harji has been doing? Why is he sitting here at Thada preaching about Sikhism? He should be doing that at the Harmandir Sahib once Harji is no longer in charge of it. So what happens is some of the Sikhs ask Guru Teg Bahadur Ji that, why aren't you taking action on Harji? He has done so many bad deeds. He is making us do bad deeds in the Harmandir Sahib. Shouldn't you be stopping him? Shouldn't you be taking action? Guru Teg Bahadur Ji listened to all of what the Sangat had to say. And he smiled and said, Vaheguru is God, and He knows what we do. He knows our good deeds and our bad deeds that we have done in our whole life, from when we were born to when we die. Harji has done many bad deeds in his life. He will be punished in his life, maybe tomorrow, maybe in 1 year's time, or in 10 years' time, but he will be punished for this bad deed. Why would I take action when he will tumble down himself? The Sikhs agreed with what Guru Teg Bahadur Ji has said, and actually took in this teaching, because if you do bad deeds, they learnt that if you do bad deeds, the bad deeds will happen to you as well. And so once Guru Teg Bahadur Ji had answered all their questions, he set off out of Amritsar and settled down at a village nearby. The women of the village were very surprised that Guruji had come to their village, so left what they were doing and ran up to Guruji and apologized to him, saying that we are so sorry that we have been singing Harji's hymns in the Harmandir Sahib. It is so disrespectful. The only hymns that we should be singing are the ones that were written by our Gurus that are in the Pothi Sahib. We are so sorry. Guru Teg Bahadur Ji took an account that the women had come first and the men came later and apologized about how bad they had looked after the Harmandir Sahib. So what happened is the Sangat got all together and listened to Guru Teg Bahadur Ji. But before Guru Teg Bahadur Ji started, they said that the women of this village were the first people to come and apologize to me. Women are not to be disrespected. They are a gift given by God. They were the first ones to come and apologize to me. Now God will always help them first when they need it. And so the women were so happy of what Guru Teg Bahadur Ji had said that they decided to make langar, do seva and do part for 3 long days for Guru Teg Bahadur Ji. And Guru Teg Bahadur Ji stayed at the village for that period of time. So this story tells us and teaches us that when we do bad deeds, those bad deeds will happen to us one day.
Yes.
And the good deeds that we do will happen to us one day. So if I help a blind person cross the road, maybe when I'm old and I can't cross the road as fast as I can now, maybe someone will come and help me cross the road.
So remember, always do good deeds and you will have a very happy life. If you do a bad deed, just as Amanpreet said, it will happen back to you. So that was story number 2, wasn't it? And now we're going to move on to story number 3. And this story is going to be told by me. Just like Amanpreet told you a mini story at the beginning, I'm going to be telling you a mini story now. So let us start. So basically what happened, Guruji was on his tours, and when he stopped, he was in Benares, and after his preaching he was resting. And so some priests came up to him and they had very confused and puzzled looking faces. And so Guruji said, well, you look confused. Go on, tell me a question, ask me it. And so the priest said, well, we're trying to be very, very humble and good people, but you know, always there's a thing that happens wrong. There's always a bad deed that occurs to us. How do we stop that from happening? And Guruji said, well, there are these things that you should never do, and if you do them, well, they're gonna be named as a bad deed. So like jealousy, greedy, not helping anyone even if you see them in pain. All of these things are really, really bad things, and if you do them, well, it's a bad deed. Stop them. And to stop these things, you have to follow the 3 golden rules. And we normally say them at the beginning, don't we? So, do the 3 golden rules and you'll have a very happy life. And so the priests agreed to this. But then they said, well, we are priests, and we're always preaching and lecturing and always telling each other our prayers and telling everybody else. So now what do we do? And Guruji said, well, you're only doing the mental. Are you actually doing the practical? You're praying. Yes, you're praying and you're telling everybody else. But are you actually telling everybody else the meaning? Are you actually following the meaning yourself? You need to change your lifestyle. Tell everybody what the meaning is, do it yourself, and you'll have a very good life. So it just shows that you should always follow the 3 golden rules and never do such bad deeds. And so the priests left Guruji and was so happy that Guruji had answered their question. So I wish you enjoyed this story. And now let's move on to our 4th story. And this story is one of the stories that I most enjoy because it has a very strong moral. Yes, a meaning and a moral. So let's hand it over to Amanpreet, who will tell us the first part, and then I'll tell us the end.
So in our previous show, we told you about Guru Nanak Dev Ji and him going on the 4 udasiyan. While Guru Teg Bahadur Ji was the only other Guru to go on the same udasiyan as Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And so I've got a little story about when Guru Teg Bahadur Ji was on one of his udasiyan. And this occurred in 1665. And he was passing by a small village. And outside that village were very large trees, which had a lot of shade. And Guru Teg Bahadur Ji and his group of Sikhs were very tired. And so Guru Teg Bahadur Ji said to his Sikhs that, let's get out of this scorching sun. Let's settle down underneath a tree and have a bit of water, have a bit of food and rest for a while before we carry on with our tour. And so they settled down and they were talking about what they knew about the Gurus already. And Guru Teg Bahadur Ji was listening at what his Sikhs had learnt on the tours.
And they were all telling each other stories as well, so they were having a very good time and resting.
Yes. But Guru Teg Bahadur Ji heard some heavy breathing from nearby. So Guru Teg Bahadur Ji looked around and saw that there was a munja underneath another tree. And there was a little man. He could see the legs, but he couldn't see that it was a man. And so as Guru Teg Bahadur Ji went closer, he realized that it was a man. And he had a high temperature. And he was breathing very heavily, just like he had just run a marathon.
And a manja is actually a Punjabi bed. So if you didn't know that, well, that's what it is. And so that's what the man was lying on.
And so he was very ill. And Guru Teg Bahadur Ji asked the man that, you're very ill. Doesn't your family care for you? Why isn't your family here to look after you? Why don't your neighbours look after you? Where do you live? Do you live nearby? Is a village nearby? The man listened to what the Guru had to say and took a few deep breaths. He told the Guru that I have a disease that has been spreading around my village. And it's a disease that is very severe. It occurs in your throat. It's like when rock-like things come into your throat and eventually they block your throat. And it means that you can no longer breathe and therefore you die. Many people in my village have even died of this disease. Now what they've decided to do is anyone who has this disease, they send them out of the village so that other people don't catch it. My family does look after me. My wife does come to see me. She gives me quite a lot of stuff. But if I go to the village and live with my family, I'm scared that my kids will get this disease and I can't see them suffer in this pain. That's why I have decided that I would like to stay here. And Dibji, what else did he say?
He also said that my family give me food when I need it, clothes when I need it, blankets when I need it. So that's the things that I need. But Guruji, isn't there any cure that could cure this disease? And he started breathing very heavily again and crying out loud. And Guruji said, well, your village believe in the caste system, because I have seen many villages like this. They let the high caste people stay in the village to get cured, but the low caste people have to go outside the village, and this is not fair. This is not showing equality at all, is it? And so what happened? The man started heavily breathing again and agreed to what Guruji was saying. And then Guruji said, I want to tell your village what is right and what is wrong. Let me to your village. And so Guruji got the man up and they both walked to the village which was nearby. And when they got there, Guruji told everybody that you shouldn't believe in the caste system. You need to give everybody the medical attention, not just the high caste people. And so one of the villagers said, well, if we want to show that we have stopped believing in the caste system, well, what shall we do? And Guruji said, what you need to do is go in the lake. Do you know the village? Do you know this village? It has a lake, doesn't it? And, well, I want you all to bathe in it together. Normally it's just the high caste people who bathe in it, but now I want the high caste, the lower caste, the middle caste, all of you to bathe in it together. And so they all did. And then the people who had the pain and the disease, they all got their medical attention from their families, the villagers that they needed, and they soon got better. So it just shows that you should never let a person die in suffer or in pain. You should always go and help them, shouldn't you?
Yes. You shouldn't be selfish and think about yourself. You should also think about other people and help them when they need the help.
And normally in schools we have fundraising, charity weeks. They're a great way of helping other people. And I love fundraising as well, because in our school we had children in need, and it was very fun because we got to wear pyjamas, and normally we gave a £1 in, and we went to the shops the stores that people had set up in their classrooms, and it was very, very fun.
Yes. So that is a way of helping other people, because children that are ill and have a disease, they can't live in a hospital. They want to play as well.
Yes.
So a hospice, the children in need help make a hospice for these children who have a disease.
So there are many charities in the world. Go and help one, or maybe even two, and that will be very good. It will be a good deed.
Yes.
So we have had 4 stories from us today, but do you know we saw the guests at the beginning? Well, they have 2 stories themselves as well. 1 story each. So let's hand it over to them and listen to their stories.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. We are going to tell you 2 stories about Guru Teg Bahadur Ji. First, Kamaldeep Kaur is going to tell you the first story, and I will tell you the second story. One day when Sayyid Musa was passing by Anandpur Sahib, he noticed some new houses and new castles, which were made by Guru Teg Bahadur Ji. Sayyid Musa asked a group of Sikhs who made these fantastic houses and castles. So the group of Sikhs replied, Guru Teg Bahadur Ji. Then Sayyid Musa asked, who is Guru Teg Bahadur Ji? Is like Guru Nanak Dev Ji? So Sayyid Musa said, they're exactly the same. And then Sayyid Musa thought of a question. How can a religious person be religious while being married? So he asked this group of Sikhs, can you take me to Guruji? I have a question I want to ask him. So that's what the group of Sikhs did. When Sayyid Musa saw Guruji, Guruji asked him, what do you want to ask me? So Guruji got told the question that Sayyid Musa told him. How can a religious person be religious while being married? So Guruji said, stay here for the night and all your questions will be answered. So that's what Sayyid Musa did. When it was time for Langar, Sayyid Musa saw there were people from different castes, and they were all treated equally, and men, women and children were sitting together. At night, it started raining heavily. There was thunder and lightning. So Sayyid Musa woke up. He looked out and thought, if I was out there, I might have become ill or even died. So Guruji is doing a good deed. He's taking care of needy people and people that don't have shelter. Married men have more responsibility. They have to take care of their wife and children. That's why they have shelter and food. Sayyid Musa bowed down before Guruji and said, thank you for giving me shelter. All my questions got answered. Thank you so much. Gurnoor, why don't you tell your story now?
Okay. So one day, Guruji was doing prachar. Prachar is when you do a lecture or a speech about Sikhi. So he was doing prachar and he came to Agra. In Agra lived a very old woman. Her name was Mai Pago. She was very humble, kind-hearted, and lots of other words you can describe her with. she had a wish. She wanted Guruji to come to her house and wear the clothes that she had made for him. And so suddenly there was a knock on the door. And she thought, who could it be at this time? She opened the door and it was Guruji. She was so surprised. She said, do come in, Guruji. And she said that, please can you wear the clothes I made for you? And Guruji wore them and she was even happier. And then what happened was that because Guruji lived at her house for 1 month, so it was Amrit Vela. And Amrit Vela is when you wake up early in the morning and you do Path and Kirtan. So it was Amrit Vela and a lady came up to Guruji. She bowed down, or you can say Matha Teked, and she said that, Guruji, please can you save me? My husband's going to leave me and my 3 children and he's going to go and live in the jungle. He thinks he's going to become religious if he does this all. But if he leaves us, then who will look after my 3 children? I will be begging on streets for food and money, and it will be really hard for us to live. So please can you make him understand not to leave us? And then Guruji asked her a question that, who is your husband and where does he live? And the lady told Guruji, and Guruji asked one of his Gursik that, please can you bring me her husband? And he brought him. And so Guruji asked her husband that, is this true what your wife's saying, that you're going to leave your family and going to live in the jungle and trying to become religious? And he said yes. Is there anything wrong in that? And Guruji said yes, that if you want to become religious, then you should help needy people and your family. You shouldn't leave your family and go to the jungle. You'll be have to work and walk miles and miles to just get food and water, and you'll be knocking on people's doors. Isn't that embarrassing? And it'll be really hard for you to live and your 3 children and your wife. So if you want to become religious, help needy people and your family. So what is the moral of the stories?
Well, the moral of the stories are Naam Japo, Kirt Karo and Van Ke Shako.
So they both have the same morals, don't they?
Yes, they do. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Those 2 stories were amazing from Gurnur and Kamardeep Kaur, don't you think?
Yes.
So thank you, Gurnur and Kamardeep, for sharing your stories with all of us. So now we're going to talk about Guru Teg Bahadur Ji's Shahidi. Samri, it's all over to you to tell us the first half.
So at the time of Guru Teg Bahadur Ji's Shahidi, Aurangzeb was king. And in order to be king and emperor of India, he had done many deeds. And we told you that in another show, so I won't say again. And so, because he had become king, he believed that he should get the blessings of the priests of Makkah. So he sent loads of expensive gifts like gold, diamond, money, and the priests of Makkah received them and said, but we can't take these gifts. Aurangzeb has done so many bad deeds. He is a bad influence to the whole of India. He is a bad influence of Muslims. So they returned the gifts, telling Aurangzeb what they had just said. And Aurangzeb was very angry. He was like, but without their blessings, how am I supposed to have a successful emperor? How am I supposed to be a successful emperor? And so what happened was that Aurangzeb had to come up with a plan to get back the priests of Makkah's trust. And so after a few months, he came up with a plan. What if he turned the whole of India to believe in one religion, Islam? So he told the priests that, here are your gifts, but I promise you that I will turn the whole of India to believe in one religion, Islam, and then you will give my blessings. But the priests of Makkah said, but we will only give you the blessings after you turn the whole of India to believe in one religion, Islam. They believed that he was doing a very good deed of turning the whole of India to believe in their religion, Islam. And so Aurangzeb was very happy that he's going to finally get their trust and blessings. So he had to make this promise come true, otherwise he wasn't going to get the blessings, was he? And so, first of all, he started demolishing all Hindu-based schools. And at that time, most of the schools were Hindu-based. So basically, literally all of the schools were demolished. Then he told the government that no longer will any new Hindu temples be allowed to be built. And so what happened was that eventually he decided that there will be no Hindu temples, and so demolished all of them. He started forcing people to change their religion. He blackmailed them, he threatened them, he killed people, he actually showed other people getting killed. The poor people were thinking that rather than going through all of this pain just for being Hindu, I would rather change my religion. So many of the poor people actually changed their religion to Islam.
Because they were already poor and they were already going through a lot of pain, weren't they? So they didn't want any more pain. So they were just like, we'll change our religion, but we just want a happy life.
And so most of the poor people changed their religion to Islam. And then Aurangzeb said that this is going to take me years and years. By the time I die, I'll probably get their blessings. I need to think of a more faster and easier way of turning the whole of India to believe in one religion, Islam. And so he thought to himself and said that after doing research on the whole of India, Kashmir was a place where most of the Hindu priests lived. And after evaluating the whole of India, he realized that most priests were greedy, and they were only priests because they wanted the money. They wanted the money and the land and the gold. And so he thought to himself that if I bribe them and give them land, money, gold, they will change their religion. They will become Muslims. And so, if what they believe in, their followers will obviously believe in what they believe in. So that will be a really easier way of turning the whole of India to believe in one religion, Islam. But there was a man called Pandit Kirparam, and he thought this was wrong. And so what did he do, Dibji?
Well, Pandit Kirparam was the head of all priests, and all the priests were kind of getting worried about, and the followers were kind of getting worried that, oh, we don't want to change our religion, do we? We want to stay in the religion that we are. And so they were telling Pandit Kirparam about what was happening, and Pandit Kirparam already knew what was happening and was trying to look for solutions. But the only solution that he came up with was Guru Teg Bahadur Ji. He needed to go to Guru Teg Bahadur Ji. Now, he was a follower of Guru Teg Bahadur Ji and believed in some of the Sikh beliefs. So he went there with his community. And when the community and him got there, they started telling Guruji what had happened in India and saying that how they were being tortured and blackmailed to change their religion, to convert it. And so, when Guruji had listened to everyone, he was thinking, this is very, very wrong. No one should be threatened to do this. So he said, well, tell your governor, because your governor's been telling all of this, tell your governor that there's an even more important person, who has even more followers than us. Say that he's even higher than us, and tell your governor that
our religious leader is now Guru Teg Bahadur Ji.
Yes, and if you change his religion, we'll change ours, and our followers will change theirs as well. So the governor was like, wow, if I tell Aurangzeb this, he will be so happy. So, as Aurangzeb was in Agra, the governor went and told the people in Delhi, the royal family, and they were so happy. They were said, oh, this is very good news, but we'd like to see this religious person first. We need him to change his religion, so I want to see him. So what happened? They sent a note saying, come and see us in Delhi. And so Guruji set off with his 3 Sikhs, 3 companions. And so they went. And Guruji actually had very 5 beloved Sikhs, and 2 of them were telling everybody to not scare anyone and to not be scared. These were 2 very important things. And so the other 3 were with Guruji. And halfway through the journey, some Mughals came and arrested them and took them all the way to Delhi themselves. And when they got there, all the important people, the royal people, started asking Guruji and the three Sikhs, will you change your religion? And they asked again, will you change your religion? They asked this many times, but the answer from the three Sikhs and Guruji was no, no, and
No.
So that was the only answer that Guruji and the three Sikhs would give. The royal family tried to even bribe them with money and all these things, but no, Guruji and the three Sikhs weren't going to change their religion. So first of all, the royal people, first they killed the three Sikhs. And then they asked Guruji, will you change your religion now? And Guruji was so proud of his three Sikhs that they had followed the right path of Sikhi. And Guruji said, no. And so they shaheed Guruji as well. So now the three Sikhs and Guruji were shaheed. And you know, in those days, they used to normally kill a person in front of an audience, normally outside. So everybody could say that,
Look, this person has done something wrong.
Yes.
You shouldn't do the same, otherwise this is what will happen to you too.
yeah, so they were trying to scare everybody, never to go against us. So that's what they used to do. And so Guruji and the three Sikhs were also shaheed in front of everybody. And there were two Sikhs amongst that crowd. And it was a very dark and stormy night, so no one could really see anything. And so the two Sikhs, well, one of them, he took the cease and put it in a basket, and without anyone noticing, he ran away to Anandpur Sahib. And there was another person, and he took the body, and he knew that no one would let him do the sanskar. And Amanpreet, do you know what a sanskar is?
It means cremation.
Yes.
It's when somebody dies, they burn the body, but the Aurangzeb wouldn't obviously allow this to happen, would he?
No, he wouldn't. So do you know what that person did? He put the body in his house and burnt his own house.
Now that's a really big sacrifice, isn't it?
Yes, it
Burning your
is.
own house.
It's just amazing how they really respected Guruji, and we should respect him just as
Yes.
much. And so that's the story of the Shahidi. And now you know so many things about the Shahidi, don't you?
Yes.
And about the personality, education, all those stories that you heard from us and the guests. So, and remember, always fight for justice. Just as Guruji did, the Sikhs did, everybody else did, we should fight for justice as well.
Yes. Guruji didn't just fight for his own religion, he fought for human rights.
Yes.
So it's important to help other people, and this story shows us that, doesn't it?
They were shaheed for human rights. So that's a very supreme sacrifice, and let's all reflect on that. So I wish you've learnt a lot today, and remember, we have a special fact in each show. So we have a special fact today as well, and Amanpreet's going to tell you that fact.
So today's fact is that before Guru Teg Bahadur Ji, there were only 30 rags in the Pothi Sahib. But Guru Teg Bahadur Ji created a new rag, and he created hymns and banis in that rag, and it's called Jai Jai Vanti. So that's the special fact for today.
And so we've learnt so much. Now, I wish you've taken all that in, and go and tell your friends, your family that you've learnt so much, and tell them what you've learnt. So we'll meet you in our next show. Until then,
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.